This is the Church of St. Paul in the Desert.
Merry Christmas. Please sit down. Christmas always reminds me of babies. You know, the center of the story. And a few years ago, my niece Amy gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, and we nicknamed her Roro. That's her name. And for a whole year, the whole family just focused on this baby. We shower her with gifts. You know, whenever there's family gathering, we go oohs and ahs, and we tell stories. We tell stories about what Roro will become. And so Roro has a lot to live up to. Now, whenever, you know, so it was really nice, during that months and years where I was able to let go of the worries of the world. And, how crazy our world, how messed up our world is, and just focus on one baby and her future and her well-being. So whenever I am confused, I'm overwhelmed by what's going on in our world. Do I need to name them? The stock market, Russian investigation, the war, refugees seeking asylum at our border, Decker friends afraid for being deported, Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter. Sometimes I get so overwhelmed, I'm paralyzed. I don't know what I should do. That's when I need to go back to focus on the baby. Focus on the baby. Find a baby if you can. Hold the baby. There's a reason why God came to us in a baby. A baby might be helpless, it seems, totally dependent. But baby is the most powerful thing that God can do to send to us. Baby ground us, because all of us have been babies, right? It's a given, okay? All of us had that experience. That's number one. It grounds us to what it means to be human. The second thing is the baby just belong. Baby don't ask. Babies don't ask whether I'm legal or not. Baby don't ask whether, don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republicans. Baby don't really care whether you're poor or rich or just getting by. Baby don't care whether you don't think there's enough. Baby just demand that you care. Babies demand that you love them, to give them even when you don't think there's enough. That's the power of babies. And that's why God come to us in the form of the baby, to focus us, to know what is important. What's more important also is that baby give us visions. Baby gives us dreams. When we're around the baby, we tell stories. We hit the story of Jesus, today, and I'll talk about that some more. And now, whether you know it, each one of you, when you were a baby, there were stories talked around you, about you. You may not know it, but there were stories about you, even before you were born. Here's my story. When my mother was pregnant with me, my family was not rich at all, and we were barely scraping by. My father was a dreamer, artist type. And we already have 5 kids. So I was an accident. That wasn't supposed to happen. And my mother was really struggling with this, and so she considered, not having me. And so one day she was sitting in church and she was really praying hard about this. And during the sermon at one point, she had an epiphany. She thought, maybe this baby could be a priest. And the decision was made. She's keeping me. She was keeping and her wish came true. Now, with a lot of detours, okay? Many of you knew that I wasn't, a philosophy major or religion major. I was an engineer. I was a pre-med. I work as an engineer. I fought this thing about becoming a priest, all my life until I couldn't say no anymore. And it's all my mother's fault, right? and now she didn't tell too many people that story. As far as I know, no, she told nobody until the day of my ordination. And she was, we were practicing, rehearsing, and she was given the bread, and she was, practicing how to get up and do the offertory. And at that moment, he told me that story. And suddenly, I remember why I was the kid that she always brought to church more than any other kids. And that in those days, kids were not allowed communion until, you're confirmed. So my communion was watching my mom receive communion and get back to her seat, and she was kneeling, and her face was flushed, and she was praying. She was praying so intensely. And I wonder what she was pondering about. Now I know. Now I know that was my communion. So whether she knew it or not, the story she told, she thought, the story she pondered that came to her, shaped the way she raised me, shaped the rest of the family. Even though everybody was having a problem when I went to seminary, but deep down they knew. Everybody knew. So every baby has a story. What's yours? What were the stories that were told about you, what you would become? Today we hear the story of Jesus. Now, I had a lot to live up to, all that. But just think about Jesus. What was the story told of him? He's going to be the Messiah, Prince of Peace. He's going to change the world. Wait a minute, how do you live up to that? But that was the story that was told. And, with my story, my mother took her part, took her responsibility to raise me. Okay? So did Mary and Joseph. They heard the story and they raised Jesus accordingly. Now, all of us has a part in this story. What if Mary said no to Gabriel, the angel Gabriel? We wouldn't have that story, would we? What if Joseph says, no, I don't want to marry this questionable young woman with an illegitimate child? What if the shepherd thought the angel was a hallucination and didn't bother to go and find Jesus and Mary and Joseph, and then never told Mary and Joseph what they saw? And later on, what if the 3 wise men, did not follow the star and did not come and tell Mary and Joseph what their story of this child? We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be sitting here telling that story. So all of these people around the baby Jesus is part of what make the Christian story happen. And we're part of that story. So a baby focuses us, ground us. A baby makes us dream dreams, tell stories. And the baby calls us to take responsibility to make those dreams come true. Now, there are about 130 million babies born each year. So it comes to about 250 babies born every minute. So as we are sitting here, 250 per minute, okay? 250 babies are being born. Each one of those babies around the world challenge us to focus on what matters in life, what is important. Every one of those babies needs a story. And what is their story? What would you say? What story would you tell about these babies being born right this minute? And what are your responsibility? What are you willing to do so that these stories can come true? So, it's this Christmas season. As the world continues to be crazy and overwhelming, here's what I asked you to do. Go find a baby. If your family have one, great. Go visit. Go visit. If your neighbor has one, go visit. Go to the baby's ward, what do you call that? In the hospital, and look at some baby. Hold one. Hold one, because holding the baby in your arms is like holding God in your arms. And that baby will ground you, will tell you what you need to do in this crazy world. And what will this year look like? And what story will you tell about the babies that are being born today? So, Merry Christmas.